Happy Wednesday. It's Gramps. Yes, I'm sitting down. Yes, I'm not moving. And that is Albert Einstein over my shoulder. I think I'm going to get a little larger here in a second. I am going to do something a little bit different today, or we are doing something different today. Ronnie and I are going to have a conversation, and I'm going to stay close to an access point and make sure that we don't have any of those mobile technical difficulties. And we were going to have kind of, more of a catch up. He briefly described meditations. I've said this a couple of times. I struggle sometimes with getting guests, bringing guests, having guests. And one of them I was talking to yesterday, and he's like, "Yeah, I want to come on. I want to be myself. I want to talk about all this meditation and all these things I'm doing, and I can't be myself. I will be on your podcast, and I will be a form of myself. I will be a version of myself that's not real in order to protect myself from what people might think of me or my professional career, things like that. So it was just kind of an interesting thing, and hit me when Ronnie brought up meditations. But bring on the guest. There he is. Welcome.
Well, no, it's funny you mentioned that. It's it's serendipitous, I think is the word when like I mention something to you that reminds something, and then you say something that reminds me. Just this morning, Jack and I walking to school had a very similar conversation as far as like be yourself. Like I think that's something. Granted, he's got what 2.5 days of school left, but
Right.
being a kid, I notice him like whether it's at the playground, and granted he's good sometimes and sometimes he's not. We're trying to fit in, and I think that's a big thing. And it's whether it's adults and kids, it's wanting to fit in. So you put on a new persona, you put on a mask, or you do
Right.
something a little bit different. And I just wanted to kind of reiterate the fact of him today. I don't know why. I think I was in the bathroom and all of a sudden I was like, I want to make sure I tell him this was just like, be yourself. Like, I want to make sure that you're not going to pretend to be somebody just so somebody likes you. And we've talked about like, I don't want him to have social because it's like, you're going to have this perception that everybody views you a different way as a kid. And
Right.
it's like, I want to make sure that he's happy with himself. And I asked him that, I'm like, are you proud of who you are? Are you happy with, like, do you have any bad thoughts? Does your mind ever say anything? And so kind of with the meditation stuff, it's to me, and we've talked about, or we've acted out visualizing. We've been
Right.
playing catch, and he's had a very hard time like catching the ball and we have like a little Nerf ball that we'll toss back and forth. And the other day I just said, stop, like just close your eyes, visualize yourself catching it like five
Right.
times in a row. And he just sat and was like, and then I tossed him the ball and he caught it like 8 times in a row. And I think it's something that I see F1 drivers do it, like that visualization and like preparing who you are, like future self,
Right.
forcing it to be like your present self. And so I think it's like I said, it was serendipitous that you mentioned that. I hope that this gentleman or young lady does come on and kind of shares their true self. And with any guest, it's obviously just like I told Jax, the camera goes on. Like I told him, if I put this camera on, you're going to be a character. Like that's
Right.
just what happens. And so, and with that, then there's always that perceived like, oh, what if somebody sees this, or what if somebody like is going to view me this way? And so that's hard to overcome for a lot of people. And so, and obviously when Gary and I had our chat the first time I met him, it's like I have this dot on my head. So to me, it's always been something like I've always viewed people looking at me or
Right.
being this perception of who I'm supposed to represent or whatever it might be. And it's like, no, I just like get over it, like get over yourself. And that's to not hijack the show, but that's at least what was on my mind. Like even before you mentioned it today, of just like, I want to be myself and be as much as I can.
I was
And that,
trying to share with him sort of the same thing. I said, one of the biggest freeing moments for me has been, and I'm going to say it the way I say it in front of my bride, but normally she gets mad at me. But your opinion of me is none of my fucking business. Like, literally, you shouldn't dictate how I feel about myself. You shouldn't dictate what I think, or visualize. You can have whatever opinions you want, but I don't need to absorb them. And I was trying to portray this. It's a male, and it's a good buddy of mine. I'd call him one of the knights of the round table, one of the guys that, if I was ever to do a business with one of my friends, or one of my closest friends, he was there for me with my divorce, and then I got to be there for him during his divorce. But we were talking, and as we've talked about, the struggle is getting the guests and coordinating to that time period. And I have reached out to him because he's such a close friend multiple times to say, "Hey, are you ready?" And yesterday I said, "Hey, are you ready? I've been I need new people." Ronnie said, "New people, get some new, we call it new blood in the game." Yeah, new blood in the game. And my phone rang. He didn't text me back. He immediately called, and we talked for 45 minutes. And he's like, "I'm just worried." He's like, "I'm worried that I'm going to get on there, and I want to be myself. It's us. I want to be able to say the first thing that comes to my mind. And I'm also going to be thinking, what are they, people that I work with, people that I'm associated with, people that look at me from a professional manner, what are they going to think?" And I'm like, who gives a shit what they think? Like, you're a 55-plus-year-old man. Like, who cares what they think? And he's like, "Well, they could hold it against him." And, he talked about the organization being, very, judgmental and Christian-like, and some of these things where he's like, they're just going to look at me if I say this or I say that, and they're going to have these feelings. And I'm like, man, I hope that I can help you to remove that from, like, giving a shit. Like, I want you to feel free. I want you to, as you just said, I want you to be yourself.
Mm-hmm. No, I think you reposted it. I'm pretty sure that the Dion and Shadur Sanders both saying that exact thing. Like, your opinion of me doesn't define like who I am. Like, if I cared what you thought, like, then I'm going to be worried about what every single person thought, and I can't live with that kind of stress. So it's like it's freeing. Like, as soon as you realize that, and thankfully for me and my birthmark, I broke free of that very young. Like, it was just, I don't care. Like, I can't help it. I didn't put it there. It's right. Whether it's my skin color or your body type or your gender, whatever. It's like, be who you are, and just like deal with whatever anybody else thinks. It doesn't matter. And so, and I think that's part of your leading with love, as far as like, it has to start with you first. Like, you have to love yourself in order to give any love out there in general. And if you're so worried about yourself, then yeah, you're going to criticize other people. You're going to try to demean other people to bring them down. That's what obviously Gary Vee's always talked about. Like, if there is someone who makes a comment or says something on your stuff, like,
right,
don't get upset, feel bad for them. Like, that's, I think the biggest thing is like, what is your damage that you feel the need to go and yell at a stranger about something? And it's like, right, is that really worth your time? And there was some other girl that was, I forgot what she said, was like, if you're going to spend like 10 minutes like typing out this big mean response, like, what are you doing? Like, is that really worth your time? And so, and you think that I'm going to be affected by you like writing a comment? And so, not saying that it could be different if he's worried about like losing a job or losing a sale or whatever. But I think thankfully I have the ability to be an entrepreneur. If I lose a client, that's fine. Like, I'll deal. If they're going to be upset because of something I said, so be it. Like, I can move on. But if I'm stuck in a job and I don't know what's coming next, then yeah, I kind of get that. But I just think you have to free yourself of being worried about anybody else. Like, obviously your partner, your kids, there's a different level of like being accountable to them. Right. But I think you still, just like you said, if my wife's upset at me, I can't all of a sudden then be upset at myself. It's like, okay, how do I adjust or change whatever behavior I did? That if it was me that did something, then okay, I'll look and see what I can do differently to change the energy of the room. But it shouldn't be something where I'm like, oh, like I'm depressed because I'm an idiot, kind of like, no, that's somebody else's opinion. It shouldn't be your opinion of yourself.
Then I was just getting ready to get aggressive with you and say, hey, don't do that negative self-talk. Like stop telling yourself negative. Like I'm so therapized that was my next thing. And I'm like, he's just giving me an example. I agree. I think that it's for him. I mean, I could talk and talk. I'm going to have him on and we'll talk about it more then. I think I brought it up because I think it's more common than just
Yeah.
him being a friend of mine, that people,
Oh,
as I said, people don't want to see themselves on camera, or they're just worried about other people's opinions of themselves. And it's like, man, it was very freeing for me. Like I said, it was later in life, well into my 40s, before I was able to figure it out and
And
totally get it.
again, this is not something it's freeing because I think we started this with meditation, kind of bringing it up. Like one of the key pieces of this book that I'm listening to, it's you're viewing yourself. It's like when I tell you to say elephant in your head, like who's talking, who's listening. And it's understanding that there's these two different pieces that are talking or communicating inside of you. And yes, you're still going to have that voice in your head that's going to be worried, no matter who you are, no matter what age, no matter what level of enlightenment you get to.
Right.
But it's the other one of the understanding, like that's just somebody else's opinion and sometimes these voices are louder than the other. And that's, I think, the biggest piece is people hear that negative voice so much louder in their head, whereas that quiet one, or the more the one that's like, no, that's just somebody else. Like, don't worry about this. It just gets quieter. It gets quieter.
I like how you got really soft when you were talking.
So
talk louder, Doc.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's for whatever reason, I don't know like why and it's always it's gotten louder. Like my positive one just keeps it's yells at me like, stop worrying about them, like do this, get over the fear, whether it's the fear of talking. And so that it's these pushes that for me have led me down my path. And to me, like I feel like I've accomplished a lot. And granted, I think we all can sit there and look at our lives and be like, man, I can't believe who I was 20 years ago and how I've gotten to here at this point. Even if it's you're stuck at the same job, you might have still overcome different things along the way. My wife and I were joking about a gentleman he's so proud to be like, I was at this job for 46 years. And it's like, you were stuck. You've been at that same job for 46 years and haven't like done anything. But in that, as we're picking on him, in my mind, I'm also thinking like, I'm sure he's gone through ups and downs of life and has grown in a way. And so even if you feel like you're stuck or haven't gotten to where you want to be, you've still overcome plenty of things. And that's where you need to have that louder, positive voice of saying, hey, you've still managed to get through this. You dealt with death, you dealt with sickness, you dealt with injuries, you dealt with job loss. And so it's knowing that you're still alive, you got back up, you were still able to kind of overcome whatever downtrodden thing you went through and be able to still continue on, still go back to that job because you had a really shitty boss that was an a-hole to you, but you still showed up and like represented yourself. So I think there's levels to it. But at least for me, it feels like I'm getting kicked in the butt of like, you need to go do this. Like with my wife, all like the voice in my head on the first date, go kiss her, and just like in. And so there's all these little different pieces that I think we have. And it's just a matter if you're going to listen to that positive one or listen to the negative voice, and I know some people might have 15. That's what my wife, like, she's like, there's a whole bunch of different voices that are all kind of, one's worried. It's like the Inside Out movie. You have all of these different voices that are kind of pushing you in the direction that they want you to go in. But obviously it's managing that and compartmentalizing the ones that aren't putting you on where ideally you want to be moving towards.
Right. No, it's all good points. And I think the meditation, I was going to ask you, are you using that meditation to, couple questions. Are you using that to make the voice louder? Do you do the meditation at a certain specific time of day with silence around you? Are you doing it when you're doing your walk and video kind of time when you're by yourself? I mean, when do you do the meditation?
So I've kind of so it's different phases, I think, for me. Right now, I'm in a phase where the real meditation is probably going to start tomorrow.
Yeah.
But for me, the visualization and the essential mantras, I printed out these things, one for when I wake up, one for when I go to sleep. And it's a lot of the I am. Like I'm repeating some stuff. I have financial goals. I have things that I want to do, and so, in order to get there, I have to make my brain realize that it's already happening now. Like, I'm already
Yep.
grateful for the $8 million, the house is paid off, like all of these things. And if I repeat these things, my subconscious starts realizing that it's real. And like I mentioned, then it gets into the hoo ha wee wee stuff of like, that's the quantum energy is going to pull
Right.
those opportunities to me. Um, but I think the visualization stuff I've been trying to do, and he mentions it in the book as well, that the best times to do it is when you're leaving your beta wave mind into alpha, which is typically in the morning, like
Right.
the closer you are to being asleep or
So getting out of
dream
bed.
dreamlike trance. Yeah, early morning, right before you go to bed. I think what'll benefit me the most is I've been getting up almost the same time as you. I just started setting an alarm recently at 5 a.m. And it's birds tweeting, so it doesn't even feel like an alarm. It's a louder.
Yep.
It sounds like the birds came into my room. And I think because before that, I just felt like I'm being so productive with my time, and yet the only constraint was time. So how do I do that? Is wake up earlier, so I have an
Right.
extra hour and a half of time in order to do these things. And so like today I was able to like make my wife some breakfast for her and just kind of set her up, because the last few days she's like, oh, I just don't have enough time to do this. And it's like, well, I do, so let me do this for you, kind of deal. And I
Right.
think using the time in the morning, like I've been trying to, like, I wake up and I'll visualize being in the paddock at an F1 race, or these different things that I want to do. I want to be
Right.
F1 photographer, or just like freelance, or whatever it might be, but I want to have access to the grid. And so
Right.
there's plenty of people who have it. So I think that's the biggest thing, is like the stuff that you see, that you dream about, somebody's doing that. Like visualize yourself as that person who's walking the grid pre-race, or
Right.
in the pit, like with the family members. Like there's other people that aren't family that are there. And
Right.
so I just need to visualize myself as that person. Maybe it's a eye magnet or a 2ndLap logo on Max Verstappen's car in 15 years or 8 years,
My son
whatever.
will be very happy you used him as the example driver. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think having that thought process and visualization in the morning has, like I mentioned to you, it's like I've been trying to be more productive business wise. And having started this, like yesterday, a guy I gave my number to last year at an event, like called me out of the blue and was like, hey, I've got this shop, check them out, talk to her today. They're very interested. So it's like
Awesome.
those kind of things don't normally happen. And so and then granted, they've been happening more. And so to me, it's a drug. And I had you on my other podcast about sales. Sales
Right.
is a drug. And so for me, that's at least, I want to have more of those connections. And how do I get more chances? And to me, this is an opportunity to find more of that energy coming to me. And so
Right.
that's where it gets me excited to want to learn more about this and get deeper into it.
Two things I have. Um, I do something similar and took from Tiny Habits by BJ Frog. And I need you to give me who your book and author is, if you know it, just to make sure the people that are watching can go get, because you've given a bunch of good Scooby that it would be great for the author to have another customer. But BJ, his book, it's called Tiny Habits. So everything's about the smallest thing that you can get down to, and attaching it to the trailing edge of the thing before, and all the different ways you stack habits. And his is the Maui habit, which is before your feet hit the floor, as you're rolling out of the bed, 8 words. Today is going to be a good day. And it just sets the rest of your day up for goodness. Like it's just like a little squelch. It's just a little bit of an adjustment as you're getting up. I'm already excited. I'm already ready to go put the kettle on so I can put my pour over coffee. I've got a whole routine. I do Wordle. I play all these different sort of mind games. I check in with my people, my Web3 folks, and I do all that. And I've got this routine I go through. But for him, I put the Maui habit just before, so that as I'm getting up, hey, today's going to be a great day, or today's going to be a good day. I kind of go back and forth. Depends on if I'm feeling like I want to really. Never mind. I was getting to do a dad joke. I don't do enough dad jokes. But anyways. What is the book and author that you're reading right now?
So it is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself is the name of the book, by Dr. James Esperanza. And he was featured on What the Bleep Do We Know? It's a movie with Marla Matlin. She's the deaf actress. And so it kind of goes through her daily routine of different things. And I watched that in college, and it kind of like blew my mind. And he was one of the featured lecturers or kind of guests that was on that show. There's a lot of other craziness that kind of in there that was hard to believe, but then it was like, well, no, this makes sense. Like I mentioned before with the liquid death can of like how water is one of the most like absorbative properties. Like it absorbs like your thoughts. Like that was one of the experiments in this was they froze a bunch of different, and I'm probably messing up the way the experiment was. They froze a bunch of different water particles with like a word underneath them. Okay. And each one of them that was positive created like this beautiful crystal. And then the ones that had a negative word, like they weren't symmetrical. They weren't like put together properly. It wasn't something that was like aesthetically pleasing to look at. And so that kind of hit me. I was like, well, that's nuts that there's like, it's just a word, but again, this goes to the observer, the versus like how the particles hit the slits, the 2 slits experiment where they shoot the particles through the 2 slits, and then it kind of forms a thing. And that was when people were watching, and then they did it without, and it did a wave pattern. So it kind of comes from that as far as like these observable words created different crystals that versus kind of a negative connotation. So that always kind of stuck with me as far as like the things that I tell myself, because if I'm sitting there thinking negative thoughts, then obviously the universe is going to find more negative things to kind of go along with, like to kind of reinforce like, oh yeah, you're having a bad day. Like, oh, just like what you mentioned. And that, like you're saying, is essentially the start of changing that quantum field around you as far as like, this is going to be a good day. But with the meditation process that I'm going to start tomorrow, I just went through the first part of it earlier. And it's something, it's funny because I kind of did it pre-test. Like when I was in school, one of the things, every time I didn't really get nervous for tests, but it was something I ended up like hearing about for some of the ones that I was maybe a little anxious about, was you essentially start at the top of your head and like flex every muscle, or you start from your feet and like you tighten your toes, and then you do your calves, and then you squeeze your thighs and your hamstrings and your butt, and you just kind of work up and use each muscle, and you are present in your body for that particular area of your body and just kind of focus on that. And he did a very similar like process of, it's like 4 parts in the beginning of the meditation process. And he says, I have to do this for like a week, is essentially you close your eyes and you just visualize your head. You kind of work your way down. You feel like how the volume of your head, the density, like and you just feel the different parts of your body and their weight. Otherwise, it's called like the water up, where you essentially feel like you're in a room that's being filled up with water. And so you imagine like your feet becoming wet, and then like the movement of the
And you're
water.
not panicking?
No, and that's the thing. You have to imagine it, like unless.
Okay, I was gonna say, like, it's not like Star Wars where they're in the trash compactor and the doors are coming together and you're freaking.
Well, that was one of the things he mentioned. He said, if this feeling is a little overwhelming, stick with the head down one. And
Okay.
so, but yeah, you're supposed to imagine you're all of a sudden like the room is filled with water, because that was the other part, was you essentially start feeling your body, and then you essentially imagine like a teardrop around you, and you just imagine like the area that's around, and then you have to visualize the whole room. And essentially It's getting you to be so present in your mind that you're not worried about time. You're not worried about your body and how it's feeling. You're just present in the moment that you're currently in. And I think that's something too many people are either anxious about the future or they're upset about the past. And so no one is in the moment and understanding like, this is what's happening right now. Like, this is the only thing that you need to be worried about is me sitting in this chair. It doesn't matter what I did this morning. If I spilled milk, like crashed the car, burned something, hurt something, or hurt myself, or what's coming in the next day. It's only what's happening in this moment and just being present. And so I'm excited to try it out tomorrow morning. I could definitely, again, I was worried about a meeting, and that's one of the things, like, you need to make sure you have, like, for the whole thing, it's going to be like 40 minutes, 40 to 50 minutes. But the phase that I was doing is like a 10 to 20 minute like start. And he says it's from people who did hypnosis or self-hypnosis. And essentially that's the roots of this, is essentially you're hypnotizing yourself to calm your brain waves down. Like I mentioned, you're trying to go from beta to alpha to theta, as far as just the activity that your brain and the things that you're worried about. And so you're trying to calm all of that down. And essentially, as soon as you close your eyes, all of your visual stimulation is going away. Like, I'm not worried about the wind blowing or the dogs that are here, that they're going to start. I'm just closed off to that as soon as you close your eyes. So that takes away 70% of your stimulus, and then everything else. So yeah, I'm thrilled that Claude recommended it to me, because I had gone through some other stuff, and it was like, I just finished The Alchemist, and I've been reading like Think and Grow Rich. And so it recommended, since it knew like I have conversations with my AI of different things of like, hey, we went on a big numerology. This is within the numerology conversation. And so, and it's funny just of how I've told my wife about this, like, I'm a 3, which is a communicator. Big surprise. I talk on end. My son is a 6, which is like he has deep meaning, like he has, or not that he has deep, but he feels deeply as far as different things. And my wife is a 1 who, like I told her, I'm like, you need to be the one that's in charge of these businesses. Like, the 1 is a leader, and she's a Leo and I'm a Leo. And so she's a Leo leader and I'm a Leo communicator. And so and then our son is a deep feeling Scorpio. So, and me and my son have talked about, like, when we were doing numerology, like the 369, and just how that kind of is one of the big pieces of everything. So yeah, I've gone down on some crazy tangents with Claude, and this was one of the books that it recommended me, knowing just my curiosity with these different things as I've done. And so and it recommended me a few other books that I downloaded that I'm excited to get into. Like there's I forget the other ones. We'll talk about those the next time. But
do you do autobiographies?
I don't. For me, don't do fiction. I'm trying to think, what was the last close to autobiography? Not really. To me, that's history. And so, like, yeah, I guess, because when you mentioned the Tiny Habits, I immediately thought of the James Clear what is that one? Atomic Habits.
Atomic Habits. Yep.
Yeah, that one definitely was along the path for me with a lot of things. And then like The Psychology of Money was another big one. Those were
I'm in the midst of, or not the midst. I'm in the first 40% of Ted Turner's autobiography. You got me thinking of it because you were talking about being present, and that was his whole thing. I don't know if you know him or a fan or whatever, but he talks about in the early part of the book, he talks that as the youth before, because he's 70 when he writes the book, he says, before I was hyper focused at being present. And when I wasn't there, I gave a little bit of thinking about the future, but I never looked back. And now I'm 70 years old and I'm looking back and I'm telling you this. And he kind of goes through and talks about it. But I've listened to, I've listened to one on Einstein, listened to one on Elon Musk, Shoe Dog, Phil Knight, founder of Nike. His was fantastic. I liked him. Tony Hsieh, I think it's Tony Hsieh, the one that started Zappos, the shoes that got bought by Amazon, and then he died huffing gas or something in a trailer or whatever it was. He was a billionaire. He was redoing Las Vegas. I just bring it up that I've listened to a bunch of them and I really like them. And I don't know if it's, so much that you're just hearing people talk about sort of, the different things they've had to deal with and what they've had, the mistakes they've made and things, that you feel more human. Or you feel more alike. I don't know if that's what it is, but it's been interesting. And I'm enjoying it because he's reading it to me. So I know he's passed, a couple weeks ago, but he's reading it to me. And as a human that grew up with him kind of being on the news and knowing all of his history, he tells some good dad jokes. I mean, he's funny. But yeah, if you decided to start listening or reading autobiographies, I have a whole list of them for you.
No, I definitely did Shoe Dog. I think that was like a required reading from my previous job. Like we did that one, Traction. I think the Elon Musk was another one. And it's funny, the last autobiography one that I listened to was 50 Cent's. I forget it's not Get Rich or Die Trying, but it's something along those.
It should be. Yeah, it should be.
But for me, I think the reason I don't, and I think I've talked about this with you, it's like I don't listen to podcasts. I really don't watch TV. I watch Formula One. For me, I think the reason, and it's maybe part narcissistic, part selfish, is like I think I got inspired by some of those other books like Shoe Dog because it was his journey, but then also realizing like, man, my journey's pretty good. And again, that's where it's like, I think I shouldn't be worried about what somebody else did. I need to be focused on my journey. And I think that's what kind of got reinforced with some of those autobiographies that I did listen to 2-3 years ago. I think 50s I probably read maybe a year and a half ago. Time is losing grip on me. But I think I'm so much more focused on the development of myself. So that's where I think I'm falling in with like, I don't want to know what somebody else's journey. And granted, this breaking the habit of being yourself sort of is, because he's describing, he was on tour doing press post, like what the bleep do we know? And then all of a sudden he realized that the stuff that he was lecturing about, like he wasn't doing to himself. Like he wasn't practicing what he preached. And so that's where, and so it's like, because he wasn't being present, he'd be excited about the lectures and then was traveling and doing this, but he wasn't like focused on internally being the best version of himself. He was just so happy with the external kind of validation of what he was doing versus like being true to himself. And so that's, I think, I don't want to say I'm very vain and and so I think it's much more I'm just so focused on myself that I'll take pieces of those. I'm sure there's plenty of beneficial autobiographies that are out there, but it has to kind of fit the vein of what I'm trying to build myself towards.
Okay.
And that's of where I feel I'm at with what I'm taking in. Because even like I think I purchased one of the books I got that I still haven't listened to is Alex Hormozzi's like $100 million deals. And so
Okay.
I feel like there's definitely guys that I would like to aspire to be on the level with. But and it's funny because for me, my vote of what kicked me in the gear was, and I don't know, you do have some younger grandchildren, was Blippy. Like when my son was born and 2 or 3 were on YouTube looking, and here's this goofball dancing at a playground. And then I go and look and he's got like 3 million views. I'm like, what in the, like, just for, hey kids, like he's essentially being a clown. And I'm sitting there thinking like, I very well could do that. And then I had a guy that I played basketball with in high school, Chris Lindahl, shout out Chris. He's like one of the biggest real estate guys in the Midwest. And so there's billboards of him all over Minneapolis with his arms out. And so it's essentially been, not that I obviously I'm not in the real estate game, but for me, it's like, once again, it's the why not me? Not like why him? It's more like, why am I not doing that? Why am I not taking advantage of this one life and doing as much as I possibly can to get as much out of it as I can? And so whether it's, obviously I'm not making kids videos at a playground, or I'm not putting billboards up like of myself, but I'm making multiple podcasts. I'm doing videos every day. I'm doing stuff that fits my vein from the things that I've been inspired to do and love my life. It's like I get to go and pick up my son from school. I get to help inform people about marketing and different things within that realm, because I had a teacher that was like, you need to be in teaching. And so that has always kind of stuck with me and it's like the pitch now is like, our marketing company is an educational marketing company. You can choose us because I have the time to work on this, where you need to go and tint those windows. But I want to inform you as much as possible about what we're doing, so that, and I want to have an educated customer. For me, anytime that you're making an informed decision when you're purchasing, like, you don't just buy a house on a whim. You don't buy a car on a whim. You do the research to better understand your purchase. And I want that for I want people to feel comfortable choosing us as a marketing company. And so that's where it's like the call I had today with the out of nowhere kind of lead. It's like, hey, I can sell you, but hey, here's some free things that you can do. If you're so inclined, I'll shoot you an email and we can work together in the future. But I want people to understand, like, why am I not showing up on Google? Like, okay, you got to do A, B, and C if you want to have this. There's other things you can do that we can help with. And so that's essentially kind of where I'm at, is like, how do the self-help, Tony Robbins, like, how do I make sure I'm being the best version of myself? Because if I'm better, then I can hopefully help the people that are around me be better. Not that I'm going to push them, unlike I do to you, but that's because we share this.
So you're Blippy / Tony Robbins powered.
Essentially, yeah.
Or a Blippy Tony Robbins. I like it. I don't take, because I know perspective and I understand and I've spent a lot of time with you, I don't take what you're saying as vain. I take the Blippy or these, massive real estate guy that you see billboards on. I hear you saying, I'm motivated to do that, or I'm motivated to do something that may have seemed out of reach before, because I've now been given this example of somebody that I know, I've touched their skin, I know their capacity, and I know that I'm as capable, if not more capable than them. Therefore, I want to go do it. That's what I heard you say is.
No, absolutely. I guess it's stepping stones. And the F1 photographer I see, shots by Antoine, like, he kind of hearing those similar stories of like, hey, I had this dream, or what is it? Shelby Sapp. I'm sure I'm messing up her name, where she just bought this ridiculous, gigantic house from nothing. And she's the saleswoman who like does high ticket sales. And it's seeing these stories, to me, reinforces And it's no different if you're watching negative things of people going down. Like I keep seeing people going up. And so that's what I'm absorbing everything I can from those people to be like, yeah, I can do that. Like if they did it, like, why can't I? Versus like, oh, I can't do that. That's too much. Like for me, I have no problem sitting here typing out emails at 10 p.m. or like when I was working a 9 to 5 of like cutting Pat's videos for 4 hours after work and doing those things. To me, that was fun. And I think I've mentioned it to you before. I realized when I was coaching track, like I enjoyed being around these kids, like going for runs, exercising, like seniors at the end of the year at a spring sport after school. Like you're staying after school for me to go tell you to go run, and you're enjoying it and we're having a good time. And for me, I'm like, and they're paying me to do this? And so that was kind of the light bulb. It was like, well, what else can I do that I'm going to have fun doing that people will pay me to do? And so being as lucky as I am to kind of discover that, I want to shake everybody and be like, stop working at the grocery store. You can go do what you want to do to have fun. And so that's for me of why I do as much as I do, is because I just feel lucky that I had the light switch come on, and now I want that for everybody else. But I know I can't unplug everybody from the matrix, because then they're just like in the movie, like you're going to be dead. So they can't handle it.
You would be very busy. You would be spending all your time unplugging people as opposed to living your life.
So I just hope my message reaches the people that need to hear it when it's time for them to hear it. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's timing and being in the right mindset of like, whether you've been down in the dumps, you just got dumped, you just dealt with a death, you just got laid off, whatever it might be, that all of a sudden, that's one of the things you mentioned is like the only time that you make a change is usually going through some sort of traumatic experience. And then all of a sudden you're like a near-death experience. You're like, why am I living this way? Like, I got to dump my wife and go on this cruise or go live on an island. Like all of a sudden you have this realization of.
Two of my buddies have lost their dads in the last 3 weeks. And I'm watching. Sorry, I didn't mean to do the two thing. And then my camera's on the side of the phone. So I was like, I have two buddies. And it kind of goes back to Joe's podcast that when he and I did our podcast, and he's like, hey, I've got 24 people that are within 6 months of my age that I've watched die in the last period of time, that kind of reaction. And so I was going to say, the guy that I was talking to about the podcast that, hey, wants to be himself and is worried about he just lost his dad 2 weeks ago. And that's what's pushing this. I want to do things different. Like he's spent 30 of the 45 minutes talking about, hey, I'm reevaluating where I see like tomorrow, not where I'm going to be in 20 years. Like everything in front of me feels foreign. All this shit feels bad. As you said, you get hit in the face and you want to do something different. And I'm watching these guys do this. Andy's the other one. Andy, who I'm trying to get back on the podcast. He lost his dad 7 years after he lost his mom. And his mom, made his dad, hey, take care of the kids and be here. And I told him, hey, the positive thing is he felt comfortable that you guys were okay. Like because his was rapid decline and things of that nature. And I said, he just got to the point where he realized you were okay. And he was heartbroken. He wanted to go be with his wife. And I've watched both of them have just massively grabbing the rudder, grabbing the steering wheel and making these massive swings of, I just don't want to do this anymore. Or I want to change. I'm ready. And
it's hard.
I wish it didn't take that to get people. I mean, I guess that's my most negative thing I'll say on this podcast with you is I wish it didn't take a massive slap in the face or a massive loss to realize that it's time for a change. Yeah. But it just seems to be like that's the thing that does.
I can kind of put a bow or kind of loop it back around to the meditation stuff. That is essentially the first phase. I had the end, so I don't know the third and the fourth phase, but the first one is understanding your body. The next one, I wrote down a bunch of different things, and that's where it kind of led to was, what are the things that you want to change about yourself? And so he listed off a bunch of, I want to grab it, bunch of dead air, unwanted emotions. Like, what is inside of you that you feel like there's these questions you're supposed to ask yourself. What kind of person have I been? What type of person do I present to the world? What kind of person am I really like inside? Is there a feeling I struggle with on a daily basis? How would my friends and family describe me? Is there something about myself that I hide from others? What part of my personality do I need to work on improving? And what is the one thing I want to change about myself? And then he listed off a whole bunch of different like unwanted emotional terms, and I'm supposed to pick one. And essentially it runs through, I wrote down 5 or 6, but like worry, frustration, fear, lack, anxiety. And I think those are things that even me here, I'm a very confident person, and I'm not worried about a lot of things, but there is still, like I said before, you're still going to have those pieces of things that you want to improve on yourself. How do I walk up and talk to my neighbors when it just feels like they don't want to talk, or whatever it might be of like that attractive girl in the college that I want to go over and say hi to. And so there's or I feel like I'm lacking being a better dad, or whatever it might be that you're kind of internally dealing with that only you knows. And that's something that everybody is dealing with. And that's one of the things with the meditation that I'm not looking to fix, but I'm looking to explore. And that's where I want to have those things where it doesn't take some sort of my dad dying or like something happening to somebody in the family where then I'm all of a sudden thinking about like, well, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I say this to them? When I can start doing that now and start introspectively looking at myself of the things that I want to change or be better at, I want to do that now versus when it's too late. And so that's at least for me where I'm going, and I'm excited to see if that's just the first 2 phases of like body and the things I want to change. I'm excited to see what the 3rd and the 4th phase of this meditation process is.
I completely believe and live my life as if we're all interconnected, Gaia, whatever you want to refer to the word as, and see the serendipitous. I'll use the word that you used earlier. It's a good vocabulary word. The things that come from it, like the things that happen from just behaving, that way. So, and my brain went somewhere else, and I started thinking about, and all of a sudden I was in Jamaica for a second. I like where we've gone today. I'm gonna turn as you said, I'm gonna start to come in. I don't know that we ever came up with a segment that we finished. Like hot tips.
The title of this, The Benefits of Walking. We didn't even get into those 20 questions that you sent me before the show. So there's obviously I derailed this from the start from your original comment, but like I said, I think it was a fun conversation to have, and to me, I think there's plenty. Selfishly, I feel like there's plenty that we gave out for other people in hopes that they do some investigating, do some exploring, look up some different things that intrigue you about yourself. Look deep inside of you and think, is there something I could be doing better? Like, how can I do that? Shameless self-promotion. If you go to my Instagram page, there's a 7-day mistakes to mastery reset guide where I kind of built this out, where taking accountability, stop like waiting for somebody else to say sorry, like just deal with it yourself and move on. I think there's too many things where people are, I'm just waiting for so-and-so. I'm just waiting to do it. Like, take accountability, like just do it yourself, like, and just be like, all right, yeah, that was my fault. I ate it. We're done. Handshake. We're best friends again. Move on.
My bride got to go get in the car, or went to go get in the car earlier, and I had moved the seat back to her. We share a car.
How could you?
I moved the seat back into position for her. And she sent me a text message. She was halfway to the grocery store and said, "Hey, thanks for putting the seat in my position." And I was like, I did it because it was like so small. Like all I had to do was reach over before I got out of the car and cramp my knees into the steering wheel. And then I got out because I asked her, "Hey, are you leaving?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm leaving." So I reached over and I did it. And it's like, it's so small, yet it made her feel important and loved. And, it's things. So those are the kind of things that I'm looking for back to, hey, the benefits of walking. My nugget for you is I do everything that Ronnie just said. Yes, I'm talking to you. Yes, you. I do everything that Ronnie said while walking. And I do it while walking because the walking sort of like takes the low level, did I turn off the oven, did I do these things, the constant thing that your brain is thinking, and it mutes that down to where I can have the meditation thought that you are. I can think about things, I can be grateful, I can think about the Maui habit that I did when I got up in the morning. I can think about, oh, well, hey, another thing is we have a mirror next to our shower. And when I'm showering, sometimes it gets water in it. And I notice my wife always comes in and she re-wipes down the mirror after I've left. I've started to wipe the mirror off as I'm leaving, just so that when she walks in, she can be, oh, hey, I don't have to do that. Like it was important enough to him to do it. So all of these things are, take the time to think about the little things, take the time to just realize that we are domesticated wild animals. That's at the end of the day, we could be out in a field, all of us running around in loincloths or even naked if we wanted to, because that's what we are. But we choose to be clothed and civilized and things like that. And this is me getting all ramped up, and now I'm like trying to bring the plane in and I'm overshooting the runway.
No, be present. I think I go on my, like, just like you said, I go on my walks. You would ask me originally, like, I try to be present. If I see somebody, I smile at them, acknowledge them, like let them know that you see them. Cause that's something there's the whatever story, like somebody walks, like if I'm going to kill myself or jump off this bridge unless somebody smiles and says hi to me. It's like, that's in my head. Like I want to make sure if I see somebody, I say good morning to strangers. Like you might make a stranger's day, just like you said. It can be something so little as just a hi or just eye contact with somebody and a head nod. Like, hey, I think just make the effort. Like that's the biggest thing of like, take responsibility. Again, it's the responsibility, but just a little bit of effort can go a long way to somebody else. And you could have made their day because they could have had a pet die or something happen to them.
Yep.
And you just smiled at them and kind of reminded them of the good in the world. And that's all that it takes.
There is good in the world. It's beautiful. Ronnie, it's been a good conversation. Thank you for pulling me in.
Yeah, no problem. I'll let you wrap. Oh no.
Never mind. Sorry, I was going to do a Beastie Boys rap, but I won't do that. I hope that you, again, not Ronnie, you have been listening and that you hear. We're really just interested in trying to give nuggets and things out there to let people have and lead their best life. So enjoy the rest of your day. As Ronnie said, I'm a lead with love guy, so lead with love. I'm allergic to grass, so I'm not going to tell you to go touch the grass, but go outside and try to be present and enjoy the rest of your day.